Hello and welcome back to the Tree of Life podcast. My name is Jacob Totson, and that's Kubi May.
Greetings.
Greetings, mortals.
Greetings, mortals.
You don't watch a lot of TV, but have you seen What We Do in the Shadows?
No.
Oh, you need to watch it. It's like a show. It's like a mockumentary, kind of like The Office, but it's about like vampires living in Staten Island, New York. And it's
Oh.
like, and it's one of they go to like a city council meeting and they just go up to the microphones and they're just like, "Greetings, mortals." It's I don't know. It's great. Anyways, we're talking about summer today because at the time of this releasing, we're almost there. The summer solstice is upon us, but we're also going to be talking about creativity and the spark of creativity as well. But so, Kubi, how are you feeling leading up to the summer solstice?
Well, I have spent most of my days this week basking in the meadows, which has been just a delight. It's just been lots of yellow buttercups everywhere across the land. So that definitely feels like it's got that kind of sun-charged vibe to it. Blue skies, lots of sunshine, writing songs, lots of bees around. So yeah, definitely feeling the solstice is upon us in Avalon.
Yeah, how would you describe like the time between Beltane and the summer solstice? Because in the Celtic calendar, it's not as
Mhm.
like the summer solstice isn't as significant, at least to the Irish Celts. Like we obviously know
Yeah.
Stonehenge is aligned with the summer solstice, but it's kind of a blank period in the Celtic myth for the most part, right?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Yeah, I mean, there's Stonehenge, and that definitely aligns with the rising
All right.
sun on summer solstice. So our Neolithic ancestors were definitely celebrating it. And it's my personal belief that the Druids just carried on with that. But yeah, there's a lot of debate around it. I mean, there's Queen Anne in the Irish folklore. She's the queen, sort of fey queen of summer. So there's a few folklore stories connected with her as well, which makes me also think that the Celtic world was definitely celebrating the summer solstice. And things like St. John's Day, which is a Christian holiday that's I think's been syncretized with
What when is St. John's Day?
good question.
Here,
I
I'll look it up.
actually
You keep rambling on. I'll look it up real quick.
I'm not sure what St. John's Day is. It's a Christian one. That's not my forte. But it
It's
does
June
align
24th. Yeah, that is pretty aligned.
that's pretty aligned, isn't it, with the solstice? And when you think about St. John's wort, that flower, the lovely yellow one, that was collected by the Druids. It's mentioned one of the texts about the Druids saying that they would harvest it on the eve of midsummer. So that would be around that time. And then interestingly, we've got St. John's Day, St. John's wort. It all connects, I think, rather nicely.
Well, interestingly, so the reason that June 24th is St. John's birth, or like feast day, is because according to legend, he was born 6 months before Jesus. And so, isn't that convenient that both of their birthdays align so closely to the solstices?
Convenient, yeah.
How
Yeah, exactly.
convenient,
How funny.
Catholicism.
Yeah, exactly. So there's little clues in the folklore. And in terms of like the later folklore traditions, there was a lot of, burning bonfires on the tops of hills in order to get the energy of the sun, and then they would take the ashes from that and scatter it over the fields to bless the harvest with the energy of the sun. So there's and things like whipping what they call them, brands, like fire brands around the head to represent the sun, things like that.
Yeah.
So there's lots of little traditions that carried on after the kind of Iron Age times.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, with as far as like the Norse, we talked about it before. It's like midsummer is kind of like the significance of Samhain and Beltane is the same, and the Norse is Beltane is to Yule, is they were the two
Yes.
main marking points of the year, the midway point of the year, and the highest point of the sun and the lowest point of the sun. And
Yeah.
yeah, as we've mentioned before as well, like the thing that's so crazy about being in Northern Europe for any of our listeners who have never been is just how long the days are at the time of the
Mm.
solstice. I haven't been to Glastonbury during the solstice, but I would imagine the sun sets about 11 or 11:30 on the solstice.
Not that late. I think
It's not
probably
that late.
more at the moment it sets about 9. So I think probably about
About
10.
10. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's still
about
quite
10.
late. Because I
Yeah.
think at the highest point where I'm at in the States, it's like maybe 9:30.
Yeah.
Was when you get like we basically can't see it anymore. But I know like the north of Scotland, like in Inverness, the sun doesn't set until I think like 12:30 at night. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then basically a little bit further north of Inverness is where you get the midnight sun and everything past that. Because I know in Trondheim when I was there in Norway, it would barely kiss the sky at like 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then it would shoot back up again, you know? And it's like, it's
Oh,
maddening. Yeah.
so cool. Are you going to go and celebrate the sunrise of summer solstice? Is that your plan?
So for me, I either go to there's the Sunhenge that someone built here that is aligned to the solstices. It's like a modern creation, but it's actually fallen into disrepair lately.
Yeah.
So they used to have like this big wooden sun that you could like view the sun through, and it's fallen apart. And then
Oh,
the Serpent Mounds, like one of the native sites here, which goes back like supposedly 1,300 years, but everyone thinks it's longer than that. It's aligned to the summer solstice, and so that's where I went last year. Being back in the States is I mean there was probably like 400 or 500 people there, all
wow.
witnessing it, but they don't do anything. Like everyone just kind of watches the sunset, and everyone's like okay, and then they go home. So so I tried to bring some of that Glastonbury energy. I brought drums and a horn, and so like I brought some friends, and so we were playing drums and blowing a horn. I was
Oh,
like,
is
this
this
is
the
how
one
you
that
do
you
it.
kind of, is this the one where you kind of hijack the ceremony a little bit
Yeah, because there
last year?
was none. Yeah, yeah.
Love
So
it.
I might just do that again.
I love the audacity of Jacob.
It's like, hey, if you're not gonna do it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, it's very different in Glastonbury because you have like the town shamans gathered up there. Sometimes you
Yeah.
get the druids going up there as well, and they do a sunrise ceremony. But that's probably the most popular sunrise ceremony in Glastonbury,
Oh,
up
it's
on
at
the Twar,
solstice.
the summer solstice one, because it's phenomenal when you get a good sunrise that time of the year, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
it's not the same.
me and Edward were thinking maybe doing Stonehenge this year, but
Oh, that'd be cool.
the problem is with Stonehenge is you have to navigate a lot of boombox territory these days. There's a lot of kids with
Really?
boomboxes, and it's a bit more of a rave. It's just a bit sad that it's sort of, yeah, it's been a bit boycotted by boomboxes.
Yeah. I know. I mean, it's a bit further away. But the one in Wales at Bryn Celyn or whatever, I can't pronounce Welsh, but it's the one in Anglesey, and it's
Oh
like
yeah.
the one that a lot of people go to. And I know they do a solstice celebration there because I think the sun comes through and like highlights the tomb.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of sites in England. That's the
Oh,
thing I
that'd be
really like.
amazing.
England and
Mm.
Wales that all align. I think what is it? Long Meg and her daughters up in the Lake District. They also aligns with the solstice as well.
Yeah, yeah, there's quite a few places, aren't there? It's a nice little nod to the Neolithic ancestors more than anything, isn't it?
So, what do you think, as far as the Neolithic ancestors? What do you think their obsession with the solstice was, particularly the summer?
Well, I guess those Neolithic settlers would have had a very close relationship with the sun because they would have relied heavily on it for agricultural kind of trends and the harvest and things like that. So with the sun being super right, you're just pointing out your little
My little son.
that's a little sun there that he's pointing at. Yeah, I think they just were so heavily reliant on the movements of the sun, weren't they? That the sun at its most peak, at its most abundant, was almost like a creative life force on the earth. It was like the thing that pushed all of the crops into their first harvest later on. So yeah, I think it would have been a big deal for them. The sun being at its highest point would have been definitely significant and noticeable in the sky.
Right. Well, you have to, the thing I always think about is just like they didn't know their place in the universe. And so, of course, they were
Yeah.
monitoring it in the best way they could. And so, monitoring the sun and its cycles, what an exciting thing that someone like they're just starting to figure out, like, whoa, it changes. And, but
Yeah.
like,
Very
like, it's not
exciting
the
kick in
same.
the moment.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
just imagine how many years and generations of people it took to observe and mark where the sun was and that
Yeah.
information that's passed down, and the theories they must have had to our nature in the universe and what they thought the universe was at that time. I
Yeah.
mean, it probably has ripple effects into the stories we still tell today. Again, obviously, we were just talking about Saint John and Jesus. It's very likely that those stories have been heavily influenced by the same stories that are
Yeah,
long
exactly.
forgotten, that the Neolithic people told each other.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful, isn't it, really? That these little things are carried forth by the young pagan Padawans of today.
The pagan Padawans. That needs to be like a little group.
Stick that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, I was just out filming a video today, talking about the religion of nature as like kind of a generic thing. Like if nature had a religion, what would it be? And one of the
Mm,
things that kind of came to me while I was talking is it's so interesting that when we go way back, obviously people worship nature because they didn't know anything better. They only knew that nature was around them. And as we committed ourselves to civilization, we started worshiping more of the monotheistic idea and becoming more egotistical as well as we started focusing much on man's image. But
yeah.
now with science, we have proven the God theory, like the singular God, like it's kind of crumbled around them. Whereas nature religions are actually supported by science because
Yeah.
of how we commune with nature, but also our place in the universe. Like we're not the most significant thing; we're just a part of
Yeah.
it. And I think
Yeah.
we as humans, the more we realize we're just a part of this amazing, beautiful universe that we're in, the more we kind of slide into the natural spirituality that exists around us.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a much more sort of holistic view of reality, isn't it? The idea that we are part of that fabric of nature
Yeah,
as opposed to above it or
yeah, or the
yeah.
controllers of it.
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
that's a big deal. Like I think we really thought that we were like this the bee's knees. Like we were like we are the center of the universe, and all of a sudden it's like, guys, we're not even like the center of anything. Like,
We are a mere speck on a rock hurtling through space and time itself.
yeah, I'll float around a sun.
Oh goodness. But yeah, I'm curious about how you're going to tie this into creativity. Because when I spoke to you
Okay.
today and I said, what would you like to do about today? And you said, well, it'd be nice to wrap in, rope
Yeah.
in creativity to this theme of solstice.
Yeah, for me it's definitely like something we talk about in this podcast all the time,
Mm.
which is like going with the theme of the seasons and not trying to fight the winter darkness. Like the winter
Yeah.
is the time for the blues, it's the time to be cozy, it's the time to kind of retreat in yourself. And I definitely took that to heart for myself this year. I felt really creatively burned out when I might, officially migrated back to the States,
Mm.
making videos for so long, putting a lot of work into it too. And like it just, yeah, it got to the point. I think we've mentioned it on the podcast where I went out to film back in, I think it was January, and I couldn't even hit record. I was just
Yeah.
so burned out. And so I decided
Wow.
to kind of retreat into myself for at least it was like 2 full months. I don't think I made any videos.
Mm.
And then I slowly started picking it back up. And it's really not been until we've entered into the Beltane times, into really right now as we're recording on May 22nd, that I'm
Yeah.
really starting to feel that fire come back. And
Oh, so you've gone
for
totally seasonal then.
yeah, yeah, and it's nice because like one of my advice that I'm learning while going through this
Mm.
is not just running with any fuel you get, kind of
Yeah.
match it with those seasonal cycles. Because what I noticed is the moment I started getting fuel, like creative energy again, if I immediately try to use it, I would burn out immediately again. And
Yeah.
so you kind of have to like look at it, see that spiritual energy come in, that creative energy, acknowledge it, thank it, but don't use it. And then kind of
Mm.
pull it in and like, okay, I'm writing things down, I'm blueprinting things.
Yeah.
And then at the summer solstice, that's when I'm going to kick off again. Um, and
That's
and
so good.
and let the spark of the summer solstice carry forward that energy as well.
Yeah, it's going to be like the little fire that you light beneath your butt to fire you into those projects. And I love that because it really allows for that cauldron time of the winter where you're just
Mhm.
brewing an idea. You're kind of, like you said, it's the blueprint of ideas and to not action them until the solstice is quite a strong thing to do because it's so easy to get excited when you get a new
Yeah.
project idea, but it's very much still the dreaming time, winter, until that solstice moment. Yeah.
Yeah, like something I realized is like I made a big mistake creatively last year because of that excitement. Like we just run with something rather than thinking about it or thinking
Mm.
what's going to be best for that idea, and almost like nurturing these ideas and projects like a like an entity, like a being. Because in my mind, your creativity, your muse, is a spiritual presence that you do have to maintain, and you can't
Yeah.
abuse that relationship.
Yeah.
And I rushed to get like my Irish project out last year, like my video series in Ireland. I was so like
Mm.
YouTube analytic, I need to
Mm.
get this out for produce content, that I didn't promote it the right way. I didn't release it the right way. And I don't think I
Yeah.
treated that as well as I should have. And so like
Right.
while no one watching that series is going to think like, oh, you didn't mistreat this project, but like through the creative process I did. And
I
so
love
now
the, I was going to say, I
oh,
love the idea of thinking of it as a muse, someone that you're
yeah.
working with. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that's for me actually. This the last video I filmed before I went on hiatus was my video on Bridget,
Ah,
and I've
yes.
really been reflecting on Bridget as the creative goddess, as the
Yeah.
spark of ideas. Because when I was researching her and thinking about what her symbolism means of sacred fire, of sacred water, and one of the things I read, it's like she's not the flame as much she is as the spark, and I really like
Interesting.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she's very heavily connected with Imbolc, which is when that spark of inspiration returns, when that flame gets lit. So I can see why you've linked it and traced it back to her. Yeah. And
What
who
about
else? I was going to say Ceridwen as well. Ceridwen is sort of the keeper of the cauldron. She's like the
mm,
primordial mama.
the
That was
primordial mama?
primordial mama. And from that cauldron came forth the idea of Taliesin, which is the poet and bard, the famous
Mm,
poet and bard. So when we sort of see themes of creativity in Celtic folklore, Taliesin is one of the people that straight away comes to mind for me.
yeah.
And his birth, which was from this cauldron that Ceridwen had
Oh, yeah,
brewed,
yeah.
and yeah, and it talks about the struggles that he goes through in a way. There's like metaphors in there of him being sort of chased by her in different forms and spat out into the ocean and sort of tossed around for a few days and nights before he's reborn as Taliesin.
Mm,
Um, and it makes me really think about like the energy of creativity, how it's something that has to brew in the darkness. It gets born out of challenges and struggles, normally in the winter months, and then by the time it's ready to birth itself, it's the full vibrant bard. It's the poet. It's that
mm.
the performance or the bit of art which manifests itself.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like when I don't remember the exact story, but I remember it was like a writer, I think an 1800s writer,
Mm,
was describing the spirit of creativity, and they were talking about how it's not something that you control; it's something that comes to you, and you just have to be ready to grab onto it when it
yeah.
does.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, and it was
yeah.
like it was very vivid imagery. It was just like you have to like grab the coattails or the dress of creativity and let it carry you. And so it's
Oh.
training yourself creatively is more about training your grip so that you can hold on for the longest before it disappears again.
So I love that. I've always thought of it as a comet that travels around the
Mm.
Earth, and several people can grab the tail end of that comet. So that's why you get that thing that happens. It's quite supernatural, where you'll have an idea and you won't do anything about it, and then it'll pop up, and someone else will have the same idea as you,
Yeah.
in some different area of the world. And you're
Yeah,
like,
it's an
"That's my
external force.
idea."
Yeah. Yeah, it is that mix of like obviously you want to like let things sit in the cauldron, stay in the oven, bake for a little
Yeah,
long time, but you also can't like avoid them. Like if you have the creative
yeah.
spark, you do need to nurture that flame as well and or risk it going out.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating process, isn't it? Because as a creative myself, I do a lot of sculpture. I sculpt druid staffs and wands, and sometimes dabble and do a little bit of art still. But what I've really found is like it's something I can never make into a full-time job because of that creative.
Mm.
That fluctuation of spark. It's sometimes it's fully within me. It's fully alive in me. I can have a whole day and devoted to it, but I wouldn't be able to be like Monday morning, 9 a.m. at my desk making those things. It
Yeah,
has to come when it comes to me.
yeah, it shouldn't be something that is domesticated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's part of the magic, isn't it? So I
Well,
actually really feel for people that have creative jobs that where they have to actually force that creative process. That must be quite difficult to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's, something I felt, with being, because I was officially full-time YouTube, um, what, 5 years, I think, something like
Mm.
that. And like, I would say I'm not full-time YouTube right now. I'm like part-time. And full-time YouTube for 5 years was an amazing experience. But I think that's what left me feeling burned out, is because
Yeah.
I, instead of leaning into those creative walls, I had to abuse those creative walls and like
Yeah.
extract as much as I could from it, rather than trying to sit with it and being like, oh, where did it go? Or thank you so much. Like I
Mm.
wasn't thanking that creative
Mm.
muse enough of like, oh, thank you for this amazing idea. Goodbye. And letting it
Yeah.
go off and do its thing. I was like, no, get back here. I need to milk more creative energy out of you. You know?
Yeah, yeah, it's a whole like relationship that you have to learn to form and tend to like a
Yeah.
like a little animal almost. It's yeah,
Mhm.
beautiful. Would you would you say that there are any deities that come to mind from the kind of Germanic side of things when it comes to creativity? Are there like
Uh,
creative gods or anything or
Yeah, so there are. We just don't know that much about them, is the only thing. So
yeah.
the main two things to focus on is basically the skalds, the bards, and then the bragi being the god of the bards, so to speak. He was like the god of like the bard of Asgard.
Yeah.
So those would be the main things to focus on. So I think most of the creative energy that we feel from like the Germanic and the Norse comes a lot through the music, especially in our modern age.
Mm.
I think people have taken the music from the language and turned it into beautiful things. Like obviously Wardruna, High Lung, Skald,
Oh
various
God.
other bands have taken that language and turned it into something truly beautiful.
High
Um,
Low. I got the privilege of seeing them perform last month, and
oh, did you see
oh
them?
my
Oh
God,
yeah, how was it?
it was just I mean, just chills. It
Yeah.
was like they really summon the ancestors, don't they? Like
Mhm.
they're a it's a ritual really more than a performance. It's incredible.
Yeah. Oh, it's so sad that, I mean, I understand why they need to take a break. They've been touring almost nonstop for years now.
Mm,
Um, and I mean, that's just, I can't imagine touring that much and being away from friends and family for such
yeah.
extended periods. But if they ever come back, or if you have the opportunity now before their final show, I think in August, definitely go see
Mm.
High Lung if you never. It's truly a once in a lifetime experience.
Oh God, yeah, 100%, 100%. What was I going to say about it as well?
As
Yeah,
far
I
as the
wonder
German.
how I'd love to be a fly on the wall about how they channel their songs because we're doing a similar project, me and a few friends in Avalon, where we're summoning the Arwen, which is actually that's another interesting thing to mention, the Arwen, because that
Mhm.
is the Celtic life force of divine poetic inspiration.
Yeah.
So it's believed if you call upon the Arwen, you can be. Some people are naturally blessed with it, like they believe the bards are blessed with it, artists are blessed with the Arwen. But it's
Yeah.
something you can also call into being. So often before I write a song or before we perform the songs, even which are in Proto-Celtic, so trying to do the same justice to the
All
ancestors
right.
from the Celtic side. But we call in the Arwen, and you can feel the presence of this creative life force fill the room.
Mm.
It's so magic. And there's been times where I've been stuck writing a song or writing a poem, and I've tried to call the Arwen in, and it changes. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Everyone has to experiment with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
It's
think it's
amazing.
just with ceremony in general, not even necessarily creative
Mm,
ceremony, is I sometimes I take it for granted because I've been in this world for so long now and in talking
yeah.
about it and again like extrapolating information and data. But I just had a private ceremony just for myself about a week ago. And it still gets me every now and then. Like I was calling to the elements, and then I get to the element of wind, and I kid you not, just like the moment I was like, I just want to call to the sacred wind. And as soon as I did, like there was no wind, and all of a sudden it just started blowing
Oh.
behind me, and it's like, what's going on here? What's going on here?
It's incredible, isn't it? It's such an
Yeah,
incredible feeling when that happens. Yeah.
yeah, and I
Is
don't
there
know if
is
it's
there a
necessarily.
word? Also, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know if we ourselves control those elements or if
Mm.
we just attune ourselves into those moments. Just like with the
Mm.
on when it's like, are you actually like controlling when it shows up, or are you just following into that river and
Right. It's
bringing
more.
everyone into that river with you?
That's a really good question, isn't it? Because I imagine it's more like at we allow ourselves to surrender into the other world a little bit when we tap into creativity.
Yeah.
Like it's probably the nearest thing we have to putting ourselves into a trance, other than dance or psychedelics. Because if I think I'm right in saying this, that when we do art, when we're creating, we go into theta brainwave, which is
Hmm.
the brainwave that you go into just before you sleep and you dream. And I think children spend the first 7 years of their lives in theta.
Yeah.
So it's that
Hmm.
imaginative realm. It's very trancy, and yeah, like that's probably it's a good way to access trance states.
Well, you would know more about this. I mean, because you have a background in art therapy. I mean, obviously, with
Yeah.
art therapy, it's, essentially getting the mind to refocus on something creative to help heal traumas and things like that, right?
Oh, it's an
Yeah.
incredible force in the world. It's basically a bridge between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, where things can
Hmm.
fall through the trapdoor and symbols and metaphors, and then be interpreted by the viewer or the therapist. So it's and the person you're working with. So it's incredible, really. And
Yeah.
often, like I still do little artist therapy groups on Monday mornings in the local church. And the amount of times people will draw the same things as well. And you're like, oh, this, we're in the other world realms here. There's something about art that does gain that access, I think.
Mm. Well, I mean, even like with like going back to like the bards or the skalds, like
Mm.
for them singing, opens up a portal to the other world to some degree,
Yeah.
and allows us to kind of peer through it or allow us to bring forth things from it to show it to other people. And I think
Yeah.
that's what Heilung definitely does is they create a sort of portal to what exists of the ancestors on the other side, and we're allowed to be with them for a moment.
Oh, that is totally, I've never heard it summarized so well. I think that's exactly it, isn't it? It's we get to peep through the window to the other
Mhm.
world realm in those moments, and they're so good at, at being that bridge.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
to kind of, actually, let's take the pause. If you have any follow-up things, think about that. I'm going to start my oven and throw my cottage pie in.
It's cottage pie time.
It's cottage pie time. All right, cottage pie break done.
Back on the game.
And I think that's we can bring cottage pie into this. I'm really good at wrapping it in the random BS in my life, but there's so many different forms of creative expression. And I think a lot of people get hung up on like, oh, I'm not a good drawer. I can't tell you how many times I talk to people about creativity, and they're like, I can't draw. But creativity is so much more than drawing. Like drawing is great, and it's definitely one of the pathways, but it's only one of so many. And
Mm.
cooking is for me one of my creative pathways. And
Right.
there's so many more avenues from that as well about connecting to ancestors through cooking too.
Oh, do you actually feel the presence of your lineage when you're cooking? Is
A
that
bit,
something?
mostly when I cook for other people. So
Mm.
this like our last Yule event for the Fellowship of Northern Traditions, I took the cooking on, and so there was 80 of us there, 90. And so I took the lead on all meals, but I think breakfast one day. And so I was like making sure there was enough food for everyone, actually serving it to everyone. And
Yeah.
it's very, yes, it's a lot of work, but I think actually doing that kind of work really does help connect us, me specifically to my ancestors,
Oh,
and
yes.
especially to the spirit of hospitality as well. There's the spirit of creativity, but I do believe there's the
Mm.
spirit of hospitality too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely the same sort of trancey like zone that's accessed when cooking. I've always people always say, "Oh, do you want help in the kitchen?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. This is my time."
Yeah, yeah, that's
So I
my
love
domain.
that meditative state you get in when you cook by yourself, and you can really put good feeling, good vibes into the cooking. And I often think, is the cooking pot just the modern day cauldron, the witch's cauldron as well? Because you
Basically.
can, when you're cooking, they say to never cook in a bad mood, don't they? Because that intention goes into the food.
Mhm.
And I do this thing now when I make the morning coffee, or I always stir, 3 times, and I put blessings in it. So I'll be
Oh,
like,
okay, yeah.
oh, blessing the day with joy and laughter and things like that. And I really believe in those sacred rituals and how that ties in with the creativity of cooking and yeah, hosting. It's the same thing
Yeah.
as
Well, I think just like creativity in general, as far as our homes, our entire lives, I think creativity creates sacred spaces, in my
yeah.
opinion. because I would like, before we hit record, I was like showing you around my place. Like I'm not the best at wall art. I don't own a lot of big pictures or anything like that. But I wanted to get a little creative. I have like a little map of Scotland up here. I put my
Yeah.
flutes and my, tackle harp on the wall and stuff like that. And it's
Yeah.
like the moment I did that, even though there's small things or even the sun behind me, they bring a more sacredness to the space. And
Yeah.
who doesn't love walking? That's why Glastonbury is so amazing, is because it's weird, it's funky. Is it clean and modern and straight lines like an IKEA in Sweden? No.
Absolutely not.
But is it mad and crazy and every building has little details? Yes. And I think that greatly lends to the
Yeah.
creative energy of Avalon and Glastonbury.
Yeah, exactly. And there is something about creating the outer expression of your soul in your home, isn't there? So, like, I always think I love looking around people's houses because I'm a bit of a nosy busybody like that. But I love I love seeing how people express themselves because it's like an extension of their identity. And there is something about that. Like if you're into the pagan world and you're into that way of being, that way of life, of like you were saying, almost inviting the ancestors into your home through wall throws and
Yeah.
hanging furs up and cool little, little trinkets and, bringing plants in. Just all of it is like part of the ritual. It's part of that creative life that you can lead as a pagan, as an expression of your soul.
You're just making me think. I watched a video. It was like an extreme minimalist, and it's just like this person that only existed, and he had like this room. It was like Japan, and the only thing in the room was a futon. And he's like, "This is all I need in life is a futon." And he's like, "I eat here, I sleep here, I relax here," and it was just in the middle of the room, and it's like it was so dystopian.
Oh my God. I would struggle. I would struggle with that.
That's a prison cell. Like I'm pretty sure prisoners have more possessions than you with your futon, and it's probably more comfortable.
It's admirable on some level, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think the whole world was starting to drift a bit more. I mean, I was for a while too. I got into minimalism, and it definitely helped me to some
Mhm.
degree, is to reflect on what actually has value. I think it's a
Yeah.
counterculture movement to our ultra materialist world. But once I
Yes.
reached that point of purging all my possessions, then I could focus more intentionally on what to own and possess.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
especially now, like I found the sun thing, and it's the only thing on that wall, and it means something to me. It's like, no, it's the time of the sun, and so now it's a reference point. There's not BS everywhere. Everything in my
Yeah.
room has a story or a meaning for it being here, and I think that's a
Yeah.
big thing into creativity and sacredness, is doing things with intention.
I love how much airtime this sun tapestry is getting. It's like your
I knew
favorite thing right now.
I spent $20 on this. Not the $300 wooden flute. No, the $20 sun tapestry.
Oh, I love it.
I'm proud of it. I put
Yeah,
it
no,
on the
it
wall.
looks good. It looks good. It adds a little something to the wall, doesn't it?
I was gonna ask, yeah, like what do you see if you snoop around my place? I'm like a hipster, a spiritual hipster. That's my vibe, I think.
Yeah, you've got like this hybrid between the earthly realm and the pagan realm, haven't you, in your house? It's very
Yeah.
much like from some angles it looks like a normal a normal fella's living there. But I know you better than that, and I've seen
Then you look a
the
little closer.
furs as well.
Yep. And you start looking at the book collection, and you're like, whoa, what are those books?
Whereas my house looks just like a little hobbit den. There's just like tinctures brewing everywhere and plants and books on
Well,
Celtic
and I think
folklore.
that's your house is a great example of
Mm.
your place isn't modern. It's a
Yeah,
pretty normal English flat.
yeah,
And you've turned it into something very cozy and witchy and fairy like.
yeah.
And it's like, how many more apartments like that could you walk into and feel nothing? Because
Yeah.
there is no effort put behind it, because people are like, oh, it's just shit, and they don't put anything behind it.
It just there's this theory as well, isn't there, about the house having a spirit of its own as well. It's like, or sort of inviting a spirit into the home in the way you decorate it.
Yeah.
I,
Oh,
I,
yeah,
I
for
love
sure.
that idea of just like, I've definitely said goodbye to houses in a way where I feel that they're quite human, like they're their own spirit or entity. When
Hmm.
if I've done a house share with people, I say goodbye to the people when we eventually move out, but I also say goodbye to the walls of the house. I'm like,
Mm.
it's quite nice to do an opening ritual and a closing ritual with places you move into and out of,
Yeah.
because I'm sure it takes on, I mean, we had this incredible experience. Me and we there was about four of us, well, five of us in the end, witchy sisters living together in my last house share. And when we moved out, the house began to reject us. It like it started falling apart. We got this crack up the wall. The window ledge fell off. You know, it was like the house was also saying goodbye. It was rejecting us because we were rejecting it. It was so sad. It was like a real sad thing that this house had been on these journeys. I mean, we'd opened up so many energetic portals there. The amount of rituals we'd done there that it made sense. It took on its own living energy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think that it begs the interesting question when it comes to like spirits. And this is something I even mentioned in my other video today that I filmed is like,
Mm.
are they really these small little elf-like creatures? Do they leave? Do they come back? Where do they exist? Can we create them? Are they born? Do they have their own world? It's like there is a lot of questions, but I think like we can create these or welcome these spirits into our home. And I think there is
Yeah.
an element of like we can chase them away. And so you kind of have to call them back and then you have to nurture them.
Yeah. The house
And
brownie, for instance,
yeah,
that tradition of the house brownie, which is one of my favorite traditions. Because they say if you meet a house brownie and offer it clothes, it will scream at you because it doesn't like clothes. It doesn't want to be clothed.
I just want
So
to be
as long as you
naked.
don't, you can offer it anything you want, milk, honey, biscuit. But the moment you offer it clothes, it will scream and run off.
So is that kind of like the Dobby is Dobby got a sock, so he was like I'm out of this bitch.
Absolutely. There's so much stuff in Harry Potter that's probably been woven in through old like Celtic pagan traditions or Germanic pagan traditions. Yeah, Dobby's the perfect syncretization of the house brownie, isn't he, when you think of it?
Yeah, a more abused version of it. Like yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think
exactly.
well, one thing I kind of the term of abuse, because I felt like way with my own creativity is I think the world we live in is very interesting because
Mm.
there's almost this contract with creativity of the starving artist of artists
Yes.
almost like I don't know if they're kept that way, like maybe artists are kept poor and starving throughout history because like our egos would become so big.
Yeah.
And I think what we see in this world is, we do have a realm of artists who and creatives who got wealthy. And I think we see that in Hollywood and movies I think they kind of got corrupted. They did become too
Mm.
egotistical. And I think that's what
Mm.
we're seeing right now is like film used to be an art form and then it became a way to make money. And the
Yeah.
moment that it became this way to make billions of dollars, and you have these celebrities that are essentially selling their souls and their faces to make
Mm.
money. And it's like, but at the heart of who they were creative people, and I think they got
Yeah.
corrupted.
My gosh, that's so interesting, isn't it? Because if you think of the creative spark as being the nearest thing that you can get as an individual to co-creating with the gods, because the
mm,
gods are, they created life, they created the world, and all of
yeah,
this in the folklore. What if creativity is the nearest thing we have to dancing with the gods in that way and working with them? And
yeah,
maybe that's why it goes to their heads because what they start doing that co-creation dance with the gods and then they almost get this feeling of like, well, maybe I am a god. I am a golden god.
right, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's like,
always forget that you're an Always Sunny fan as well.
yes, absolutely love that TV series. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it
no,
does.
I think
I suppose that is the connection with the old gods, isn't it? It's that's where creativity marries in to the pagan world.
yeah, well, I think there's a really good the book I'm reading. I think you would really, I think I maybe have mentioned it to you. It's called A River Enchanted,
Mm.
and it's about a bard. It has to take place in Ireland. A bard that gets called back home because there are like girls getting kidnapped from the village, and they think they're being taken by the spirits, and so he needs to like play his harp for the spirits to commune with them.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's part of this kind of like fantasy-ish world they have is that when you commune with the spirits, they take something from you in return.
Mm.
And I think there is a contract between us and the creative spirit. And I think part of that is like, creatives typically don't have a lot of money.
Yes.
And it's been pretty true throughout all of history is, again, like Vincent van Gogh doesn't become famous until after he died. He lived a miserable life, like probably one of the most
Terrible.
sad people on the planet, but like we celebrate his art. You know, it's how
He
messed up
like
is
cut his ear off. It was that bad.
right.
He cut his own ear off. How
Yeah.
many people can say they've been that low that they've cut their
Right.
own
Yeah.
ear
Like
off?
this, like it's so messed up. It's so messed up. Vince Van Gogh lived like one of the worst human lives possible and then became famous. Like
Yeah.
that's just rude.
That's a
But that's
slap. That's a harsh slap in the face from the gods, isn't it?
yeah. But I think that is the creative contract.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe there is something about that. Yeah, or the fact that you have to. I mean, maybe more. Is it? Do you think it's possible that creativity is born out of the deeper sort of pits of emotions that come with things like poverty and strife and emotional hardships? Like,
Yeah.
is that the nest? It goes back to that idea of Ceridwen and the cauldron and Taliesin. Like, does it have to be born in those darker places in life?
A bit. I think, well, even bringing it into shamanism, one of the lessons I've always learned from shamanism is that it's like one of the shittiest jobs in the village.
Yeah.
Of you are the ones that is the closest with the spirits, but you're considered like lower than like the shit shoveler because of the contract you have with these spirits, and it's like you're a
Yeah.
necessity, and people are going to make sure like they need you.
Mm.
But like there's something that's tainted about the shaman to the
Yeah.
village because of the darker places they have to go. And I
Yeah.
think the spirit of creativity kind of exists in a similar realm, is like the
Yeah.
artist is someone that the world needs, but it never gets the recognition. Like, in the hierarchy, even now, of like
Yeah.
jobs, like creatives are like the bottom. We need like doctors and, people to fix roads and plumbers, but like creatives is like, you're at the bottom of the food chain,
Yeah.
guys. Like,
Yeah. Like low
yeah.
priority somehow, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
but we want
it's
you, but stay down
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And maybe it's because they have a similar relationship to spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a really cool connection you've just made. I do think you're right as well. And there is something shamanic about the creative process because it's that
Mhm.
channeling from the other world realms. You're bringing something into the human realms, and that trance-like state of theta that you have to access to get to it. It's very shamanic, really, isn't it? When you
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean,
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, as far as like, our beautiful world that we live in, the sense that we can listen to music whenever we want, which is just baffling. How blessed are we that, like, of
Yeah,
the human history, we're like the 0.1% that can just hit play and listen to whatever we want.
I know,
Incredible. Like,
isn't it?
isn't creating to music just so beautiful? Like, we essentially
Yeah,
have like a personal like concert for anything we want at any given time.
I know.
Oh, incredible. Like,
Are we the luckiest for that? I
it's
constantly count
amazing.
my chickens for that. I'm like, what a
Like when I was
blessing.
practicing my tattooing for the first time, or when I did the tattoo in my leg, I had a high lung on, like I had the full concert, and so I'm just
Mm.
listening to just like as I'm sitting there like tattooing, like fucking high lungs in my living room playing for me as I'm like doing these tattoos, like my ancient Celtic ancestors that were doing tattoos, at best they had to do drumming for them. I got a whole concert,
Yeah,
incredible.
right. So good. So, so good. Yeah, we are really truly blessed with the spirit of creativity that we can listen to music whenever we want for it. Because that really, for me, helps me navigate and tap into creativity. If I'm listening to music, I can just go, I can go into that realm so easily while I'm making something.
Yeah. And this, like, again, like, how blessed are we as creatives that we can all influence each other? And I think that's one of the beautiful powers of
Yes.
the internet, is that we can, all help each other and inspire each other and learn with one
Yes.
another. We've never lived in such an incredible time to share information and inspire one another. AI is an interesting thing to be thrown into that, where it's just like amalgamating creativity.
Yeah.
Very interesting spiritual conversations in AI, honestly.
I know, I know. I'm fully immersed in it. I absolutely love chatting to ChatGPT about all my
Yeah.
strange philosophical 3 a.m. questions. It's like it's my new best friend.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's what I was going to say with music, like it's going back to the idea of the shamanic aspect of
yeah.
creativity. Music, like you said, is actually created to influence others' moods, right? Somebody takes an emotion like nostalgia and they put it in a song, and then other people get to experience that nostalgia. And it's like a misplaced nostalgia. It doesn't even belong to you, but you
Yeah.
feel it. Like that transference of energy, that's magic. That is shamanism, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, and just concerts in general,
Yeah.
musicians that know how to play the crowd and actually like build each other, like they're sending energy out, feeling the energy coming in, and then creating something together. That's,
Yeah.
the best
Yeah.
live performances are when the energies mix. It's not just someone playing for you, it's when they take your energy, their energy, and then create something.
Yeah, like DJs. DJs
Magicians.
are like magicians. They are, aren't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
What a responsibility. Like the puppeteers of the dance world.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of also, again, the abuse of power
Mm.
of the creatives, of like, the creatives, in the sense that like we used to only be able to perform for the village, or
Yeah.
at best, like how many, the best bard in all of Ireland, how many people do you think the best bard in all of Ireland played for at one time? 100, 200?
Yeah.
Let's cap it at 1,000. Let's like this as like the best bard in Ireland, 1,000 people, and 1,000, that probably the
Yes.
best.
Yeah.
Now you can put a song on the internet and see it to millions, or you can be in a concert and play for 50,000 people. Like the amount of magic that you're creating and absorbing as a
Mm.
creative is truly incredible.
Yes.
But I think that's also where people are abusing that power, is using their magic to influence others. And I think that's where the creatives have been given too much, I think, at the same time.
That's why things are getting shady up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting observations. Yeah. Interesting. We've just had the bardic competitions here in Glastonbury as well. It's a yearly thing. The Bard of Glastonbury gets they get given a throne that's made of old tractor parts and spray painted
That
gold.
is the most Somerset thing I've ever heard.
But they also get this beautiful cape, this blue velvety cape with gold, the gold Arwen symbol
Yeah.
on it as well.
Is it Puck
So
again?
what's that?
Did Puck compete this year?
No, I didn't actually watch it. I was tripping actually, and I missed it.
Naturally.
One of these days. I missed it, but I was frolicking in the meadows. But
As you do.
Pock normally does a little poem there. And we've actually got Pock performing in our back garden on the 27th, which is very exciting. So he's going to reading some of his new material. But yeah, Pock and Ash the Bards of Glastonbury, they are my true favorite bards because they have this element about them that's very shamanic. Like they look like they're from the outskirts of society. They look like ruffians or
Yeah.
activists or old school punks. They always wear black hoodies and don't
Yeah.
brush their hair. And for me, they are the closest thing to the edges, and that's why they're such good bards, because they channel from that place at the depths of the world, the
Yeah.
gnarly roots of the land. So I always try and stop and have a good conversation with our bards.
Well,
But
yeah,
it's
and that's
some chap called Elliot won it this year. So congratulations, Elliot, whoever you are. I haven't met him yet.
Elliot the Bard.
Elliot the Bard, yes, as he'll be known this year.
Yeah, honestly, like, yeah, really grateful for this conversation. Some things came up that I didn't expect us to kind of conversate about. Creativity is such an interesting thing, and I think we do take it for granted.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think of it when you first brought up the topic. I was thinking, oh, yeah, that seems quite like far removed from the pagan stuff, but actually, it's completely enmeshed.
Yeah,
When we
yeah,
when we
it's
dig
it's one
deep,
and
it
the same.
is. Yeah, totally. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
And I think that's one of the things I've always appreciated about like the Fellowship Northern Traditions, the nonprofit and pagan community
Mm.
that came from the channel, is everyone's just so creative, and like
Yeah.
no one gets the right recognition for it. Like, these are the people I'm like, you have these BS magicians, magicians, very similar words. Anyways,
Oh. There are
um,
no coinkydingles in this world.
right, and it's like, they, I feel like, again, are, given this great amazing power. Some people deserve it, of course, but then like the people I meet in the pagan communities from any community, and it's like they're just so creative, because I think they're
Mm.
so tapped into that energy. It's, like one of my really good friends, Logan, it's just like he wanted to connect to Freya, so he just made a feather cape. It's like, what do you mean you just
Oh.
made a feather cape? Yeah.
Who's even got the time to make a feather
Right.
cape?
And
I
it's like,
love
and it's
that.
nice. It's not like shitty. It's like a nice feather cape. And it's just like, he didn't make any money from this. Like, he only got the
Yeah.
spiritual recognition and feeling of connection. And ultimately, isn't that what creativity is for? Is a feeling, is an experience for yourself, but also for others at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that so much, so, so much. And it does bring it in nicely with the summer solstice, because you think that peak time that we can be full of the charge of the earth and of the land, it's summer solstice. That's when we're full, like, wow, full peak.
Yeah.
Like the herbs all get harvested this time of year on the solstice, because they
Mm.
are fully charged there, and everybody knows that. And it's the same with us, to kind of to make the most of our creativity, to go and tap into that is now. The time is now. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, for sure. So if, my final words of advice for anyone is anyone who is struggling creatively or even spiritually, because as we made through this conversation, it's like they're very closely aligned. I think they bring one and the same. So if you want to connect
Yeah.
spiritually, get creative. And the time of you listening to this, we're getting to the best time to be creative, for the natural powers to be lending you their energies to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So mote this be. So mote it be. Yeah.
So what is your creative projects coming up? This is our closing marks. What do you have
Well,
creatively?
I regularly stock the local shop, the Witch's Cave, with wands. So I've just made a big batch of that, and I really need to restock my Etsy shop with Druid staff. So that'll be coming up in the next month. I should have yeah, if you're looking for a Druid staff, look no further. I love making those because I can always feel the personality of the person who's yet to own it somehow. It's a very mystical
Mm.
experience of timelines shifting. Um,
And then
so
when they
that
finally
feels,
show up, you're like, oh, I've been waiting for you.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's the weirdest thing. It's a very supernatural process.
Back to Harry
So
Potter and Ollivander's wand. It's like, oh, the wand chooses the wizard.
yeah, exactly. It truly is that. The one time I was making a druid staff and it didn't feel like a personality. By the end of it, I was like, "Ah, this is my one. I've made this for me, and that's why I can't detect it as different, you know."
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
What
But what
about
other
you? Because
things?
you're oh sorry, what were you saying?
Well, anything else you want to like, mention to the few listeners who stay here to the very end? Anything they need to know about as far as the world of Kubi?
Well, well done for staying to the end of our ramblings.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, just a little shout out about the Path of the Oak. That's my main creative project that I've been birthing this year, which is
yeah.
I'm taking on students all the time. There's very limited spaces, both online and in person. It's a 2 year training in druidry, folklore, magic, rituals, all of it enmeshed in one big melting pot of fun. So,
Nice.
yeah, the link will be below somewhere, won't it, for that?
It's down there. Yeah, it'll hang out. Um,
And what
yeah,
about you?
for me, like the creative spark that I'm really leaning into is, like the YouTube. I don't plan for the YouTube to go anywhere, but it's definitely shifting away from my primary source of creative outlet. Um, as I kind of picked up at the beginning of this year, I do want to get into tattooing, so that's the next major step for me. And I think that's also what I
Mm,
meant. Like when I started to try to do it in the earlier year, it didn't feel quite right. I had some early progress, but it's like, oh, I
yeah.
need to wait, and now I'm starting to feel it again. Sure enough, like I literally dropped it. Like I have a bunch of tattoo supplies I just haven't touched.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like beginning of May, all of a sudden it started like tingling. It's like it's time.
I love that.
Um, yeah. So
Maybe the next time we see you on the podcast, you'll have had a mad manic solstice and have covered yourself in tattoos. Your whole face will be covered.
yeah, all the way up. Yeah, hard to do. The leg is the best spot to practice because if it's shit, you can cover it up.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, that's the next thing for me is getting back into drawing. I do have an art degree, and so it's time to get back into that, and then start
Mm,
reaching out to tattoo parlors and figuring out where to go. But I do have like kind of a
yeah.
long-term plan with it of where I want it to be. But yeah, it's going to take some time, and
Yeah.
just really excited to move into it because it is a way for me to connect to my Celtic ancestors. Because we know that they were tattooing one another, and that's one of the things that was stripped away during Christianity, was the
Yeah.
tattooing. So I think it's going to be a really
Wow.
beautiful way to connect to the ancestors as well.
Oh, what an honor to bring that back. That's got some serious ancestral weight to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So looking forward to it. Yeah, got some cool things coming up otherwise. But yeah, that's the main thing. Just living life right now.
Oh, that's so good. Enjoy the meadows, everybody, if you have meadows
Yeah,
near you, because they're beautiful.
yeah. That's the most important thing about this time of year. Get outside.
Yeah,
That's what I
get
was
your
doing
serotonin.
moments before I got onto this podcast. I was outside all day. So get out there, do things. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so very much for joining us for the Tree of Life podcast, episode whatever, talking about summer and creativity. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
See you later.